When you're really hungry, there's nothing that does it quite like corn chips. Plenty of fat and salt and the good taste of corn. You can get them anywhere these days, from gas stations to Walmart. They're produced from cornmeal and then fried in the shape of small scoops, making them particularly suitable for scooping up salsa. The corn paste, or masa, is cut into shapes and then deep fried in oils until crispy. After sprinkling on salt, the chips are packaged for delivery. The purpose of the frying is simple. The process involves moving oil, or fat, from the pan into the interior of the chip. When finished, the chip should have a light brown color and a crispy property. The fried corn chip has an oil content of 30% to 38%. According to the chemistry of deep fat frying oils. Maybe you're too skinny. Maybe you need a lot more fat. There's not a tastier way to get it than in corn chips. According to Mayo Clinic, potato, corn, and tortilla chips often contain trans fat. Trans fat is considered by many doctors to be the worst type of fat you can eat. Unlike other dietary fats, trans fat, also called trans fatty acids, both raises your LDL cholesterol and lowers your HDL, or good cholesterol. A diet laden with trans fat increases your risk of heart disease, the leading killer of men and women. Yes, these delicious fried chips that taste so good and so much tasty oil and salt, they often have trans fats, which can be really bad for your heart health. For years, corn chip companies used partially hydrogenated oils in the frying process. This provided for an extended shelf life. Unfortunately, these oils also contain trans fats, which contribute to the buildup of plaque inside the arteries. Specifically, trans fat consumption was causing 50,000 fatal heart attacks each year in the U.S. alone, says the Center for Science in the Public Interest. 50,000 deaths per year in the U.S. from trans fats. Now, even though there's an initiative at the moment to restrict trans fat content in chips in the U.S., there are plenty of other countries where no such restriction is in place. But am I safe if the package says there are no trans fats? In the United States, if a food has less than 0.5 grams of trans fat in a serving, the food label can read 0 grams trans fat. This hidden trans fat can add up quickly, especially if you eat several servings of multiple foods containing less than 0.5 grams a serving. When you check the food label for trans fat, also check the food's ingredients list for partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, which indicates that the food contains some trans fat even if the amount is below 0.5 grams. Especially if you're eating an entire bag of chips at one setting. Can often happen when you're really hungry. Maybe 10 servings, maybe getting in 5 grams of trans fats there. Since even 5 grams per day of trans fat in the diet is associated with a 23% increase in the risk of coronary heart disease, these dangerous foods should be avoided altogether. This is why people that eat a lot of snack food, comfort food, junk food, whatever you want to call it, heavily processed foods that have plenty of fat, sugar, salt, that sort of thing, they often have coronary heart disease. Trans fat consumption is also associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. While the consumption of fat as a percentage of the diet, animal fats and even cholesterol were not significantly associated with the development of Alzheimer's disease. Really tasty chips made with the partially hydrogenated oils have been eaten for years. And that's one of the big factors in the at least 5 million people in the United States suffering from dementia, especially Alzheimer's, at this time. Back in 1906, when Dr. Alois Alzheimer first described this disease, it was considered peculiar. But as you can see from the chart, it's not a rarity anymore, as the incidence climbs and climbs. There was a big change in diet. Back in June of 1911, Procter & Gamble's Crisco shortening hit store shelves. people had been cooking with butter and lard, but a huge marketing campaign convinced many Americans that the trans-fat-laden hydrogenated plant oils in Crisco were so much healthier than traditional cooking fats. Big marketing campaign. Don't use the simple fats you have been. Use our product. Almost reminding you of what you can learn about eating during Super Bowl commercials. Maybe not the most health-promoting foods. For people older than 67, the risk of colon cancer increases by 50% when they consume significant amounts of trans fats. According to nutrition and cancer, there's a lot of colon cancer out these days, but amongst the people that don't eat processed foods, for example, in some of the traditional African cultures, no colon cancer, no diverticulitis. Eating fried foods is bad for the heart. The more often you eat them in the week, the greater your risk of heart failure. A team of Harvard researchers studied 15,362 participants from the Physicians' Health Study who furnished accounts of their consumption of fried foods over a 4-year period. Those that had 1 to 3 had a 24% increase in the risk of heart failure, 4 to 6, 28%, and more than 7 servings of fried foods per week, a 103% increased risk of heart failure compared to those eating less than 1 serving of fried foods per week, says the Journal of the American Heart Association. Hash browns, French fries, classic fast food meal specials, where you get your large fries, the Coke, and the hamburger. You're getting plenty of fried foods in, and the more of these you eat, the greater your chances of getting heart failure. In another study involving 70,842 women from the Nurses' Health Study, taking place between 1984 and 2010, and 40,789 men from the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, 1986 to 2010, frequent consumption of fried foods was significantly associated with development of type 2 diabetes, according to the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. You don't want the expense of insulin, the inconvenience of a lot of doctor visits, dialysis clinic visits. Avoid the fried foods. But what if the oil used in frying is trans fat free? Even if your chips are fried up in oils not containing trans fats, your risk of certain types of cancer still increases. 3 studies in Sweden have found an association between fried foods consumption and pancreatic cancer, urothelial cancer, and colorectal cancer, respectively. So if you'd like to keep those internal organs functioning well and free from cancer, stay away from the fried foods. You don't need them. The corn is usually genetically engineered, since genetically modified seed is planted on 89% of U.S. corn acreage. Since upwards of 75% of processed foods in the typical supermarket contain genetically modified ingredients, chances are very high your bag of corn chips is GM, unless it has the symbols USDA Organic and or Non-GMO Project Verified. NK603 corn has been modified to stay alive when Roundup, active ingredient glyphosate, is sprayed on the fields. Roundup does an excellent job of killing weeds and good gut bacteria causing celiac disease. If you are unlucky enough to be exposed to a significant dose of Roundup, you can expect respiratory distress, impaired consciousness, pulmonary edema, infiltration on chest x-ray, shock, arrhythmias, renal failure requiring hemodialysis, metabolic acidosis, and or hyperkalemia. The purpose of the genetic engineering of corn is to enable the corn to stay alive when the weed killer is sprayed, which proceeds to kill all the weeds. Unfortunately, Roundup active ingredient glyphosate also has some really bad effects on people. either when they get it sprayed on them in the fields or even when they eat a product that has had Roundup sprayed on it. The corn doesn't die, but the person might. Glyphosate even causes hormone-dependent breast cancer cells to multiply. Bees exposed to field-realistic doses of glyphosate suffered impairment in the sucrose sensitivity and learning abilities. Even short-term memory decreased significantly when bees were exposed to glyphosate. You don't want a nasty case of breast cancer? You'd like to keep bees in your area alive and well, finding the plants that they need to pollinate? Keep the glyphosate away. Corn varieties Mon 810 and Mon 863 are engineered to synthesize two different Bt toxins used as insecticides. Bacillus thuringiensis is a common bacterium in the soil, and the gene of interest produces a protein that kills Lepidoptera larvae, in particular European corn borer. This protein is called the Bt delta endotoxin. Growers use Bt corn as an alternative to spraying insecticides for control of European and southwestern corn borer. When a susceptible insect, usually a caterpillar, starts eating the Bt corn, the protein binds to his gut wall and the caterpillar stops eating. Within hours, the gut wall breaks down and the gut bacteria spill into the rest of the body, producing an agonizing death for the caterpillar, according to the University of Kentucky. Bt corn has the toxin bred into the corn, making it unnecessary, in theory, to spray the crops with pesticides. The pest eats the plant. The pest has a horrible death. Unfortunately, this poison is often also found in human beings that consume the Bt corn, as we find in a very interesting study from the eastern townships of Quebec. The toxins have also been found in human blood. A team of Quebec researchers studied the blood of women in the eastern townships. The Cry1AB protein, a Bt toxin, was found in the blood of both pregnant women and their fetuses. Herbicide residues from Roundup were also found in the blood. The human immune system couldn't be fooled. While the Bt toxin is supposedly completely safe for people, human antibody levels increase when people are exposed to Bt products. An antibody, also known as an immunoglobulin, is a large Y-shaped protein produced by plasma cells that is used by the immune system to identify and neutralize pathogens, such as bacteria and viruses. The antibody recognizes a unique molecule of the harmful agent called an antigen via the variable region. When the body is exposed to Bt toxins, antibody production increases because the body considers these Bt toxins to be pathogens. That is, something which can cause disease. And as we see from this chart, the percentage of genetically modified crops has been increasing rapidly from 1996 to 2015. And what is the long-term Roundup effect on the body? Gilles-Eric Seralini and his team conducted a 2-year study of rats who were fed corn for 11% of their diet. Some of the rats received corn treated with Roundup. Some got maize not treated with Roundup. For the group receiving Roundup-treated corn, rats experienced severe kidney problems, liver congestions, and necrosis, and severe nephropathies. Female rats receiving Roundup-treated maize died considerably younger. There were also many more tumors. When you're consuming your Roundup-treated crops, you can expect to have tumors, serious kidney problems, and die younger. So why take a chance? Just for some good taste?